So I've got all the components, I believe, together here. Stuff out of my stock, stuff that I bought. I've worked my way through the parts lists. There's a discrepancy. I don't seem to have the 10 microfarad multi-layer ceramic cap that's called for, and I'm not sure why you needed a multi-layer ceramic cap here. And I've got an electrolytic I'll put in, and this is either on back order or I just didn't get it ordered. And either way, I'll look at that and confirm whether I can do the substitution or not. Leveling kit is back ordered for 5 of the switches. These are the smaller ones that need the kit. The keycaps are on order from Amazon. The LS07 is out of my stock. I didn't have any LS145, so I bought one. But I think we can jump in and just start to solder and see where we get to. I've got my soldering glasses here. I really want to start with components. These are the 3 1N914s. Of course, I don't have tools laying here. There we go. So let's get these loose. Figure out where they get stuffed. So there's 3 resistors up here. I believe those are 470 ohm diodes. Cap. Down here, I'm guessing they're stirring diodes for the decoding logic, though I don't know that. Just swap glasses because I know I'm going to have to. These are our polarized parts, of course. So in this case, the black band on the package goes towards the white band on the silkscreen. I'm just going to hand bend these. In this case, that'll work just fine. Don't really need the lead forming tool here. I don't think, well, I probably got a lead forming tool that goes this small, but I'm not going to worry about it for the 3 of these. I think I can get pretty good spacing just eyeballing here. Good enough. There are 3, I believe, 470 ohm resistors. And those are actually parts I ordered. I'm not sure why I would order 3 resistors, but 470 ohm carbon fill. They just snuck through in the order. Normally I would have changed this to minimum order of 10. They didn't get deleted from the order. I've got stock here I could have used, but such is life. These go. And again, they are bent very close to the package of the body. I'm trying to get a nice curve to the leads, not a sharp bend. That way there's less stress on the package. We didn't go in as well as I'd have liked. Yeah, that's my color code 470 ohm. Just because I'm a little bit anal, I'm in the same orientation. In this case, I've got the tolerance band down. Get the leads flexed here to help hold them in place. And I'll be able to push down against the bench. Soldering pencil is warmed up. Actually, my JVC heats almost instantly. Only takes a couple of seconds to come up to full temp. And we will begin soldering. I'll hit the 3 diodes, and I'll flip the board over, and if everybody's nice and level and in place, I'll solder the other lead of each device. And the build is underway. Never actually built a keyboard before. I've disassembled plenty. You've seen me do it. Stripped all the way down to the blank printed circuit board and basically do a complete rebuild. I've done that, I believe, a couple of Model 1 keyboards that were just in really, really poor shape. Basically get to where I had, of course, a keyboard that worked. A little bit. Can't get the flush cutters here into position. One of those leads got left a little bit long. No, it's fine. So that gets us through those diodes and those resistors. Looking at the list, I will, I think, move on to the IC sockets next. 114 and 116 pin. Making sure to get the notch. Trying to put the 16 pin in the 14 pin position, which obviously doesn't work. Got the notches in the correct orientation. Hold them loosely in place so I can flip the board over. As always, I will solder a couple of corner pins. Checking for flush. And finish soldering. Looking at 0.1 microfarad ceramics. Really 0.1 microfarad. You know, I had plenty of these in stock, but again, I think this is a sneak through where I just didn't get them removed. Wow, that is a lot of packaging for what are literally 2 capacitors. But such is life. These are obviously just decoupling capacitors for the 2 logic devices. The 0.1 microfarad ceramic decoupling caps I've already got in stock would have been absolutely fine for these. In this case, I'm putting the markings out away from the socket, just so that it's a little bit easier to look at them and see what they are. They're not polarized. Just one of kind of those little details I like to do. Spacing on those looks fine. doesn't want to get picked up. That takes care of those two caps. I think we can probably move on to the resistor network next. Caps. Probably this bag right here. There was some stuff. I'll go ahead and mount him. Don't recall if he was supposed to be left off here and only terminated on the CPU card. I'm going to have to go look, but for now I will just go ahead and mount him, although these can be a bear to remove. Just going to solder one pin, check it for square, and then solder the rest. If you solder all the pins and discover it's not square, it can be a major pain. Basically have to unsolder it, try to square it up. Touch up that final joint. I'm pretty sure I got the orientation on him correct, and I did. There's a dot on the package that is pin 1, and the pin 1 has a full silkscreen around it, and then the other pins are just outlined around the outside of all of them. So his orientation's fine. That's the resistor network in place. Move on to the box header here. This happens to be something I had in my stock. I've got a bunch of these that I picked up who knows where. I'm just going to one pin, and then I'll maneuver him around to get him nice and square, because at the moment he's not in there very square. Definitely not square. Still not square. Not sure why. That looks better. One pin in the opposite corner. Check it visually again. In the previous video, we looked at all the components in the second two boxes I got, and I actually sorted those after I shot the video. This guy is in. I've got two of the three LEDs here. That's one of them there. This is the yellow one, and the yellow one goes in at D2. I see D1. See if I can spot D2, D1. Interesting. D1 is power. D2. I really don't see D2 or D3 on the board. Maybe they're not on this board. I don't know. Oh, there it is, D2. So it's underneath the keycap. I believe the orientation will be that way. I'm just going to tack him, and then I'll push him down flush and finish soldering him. He definitely moved around. Care of the yellow one. This is the green one. That's the yellow. The green one goes at D3, which I haven't spotted yet. So look for a switch with a diode inside of it. I'm assuming that's what this one is as well. D1 is power. D2. D3 under the code key there. Where did I put D3? Surprised I didn't order more of these. I flip-flop back and forth because I've got a lot of LEDs here, but I don't have these clear colored ones like he calls out for here. I believe the red one is coming from DigiKey since there was no stock at Mouser. I think the current world situation, I know it's affecting shipping times and those kind of things. I've had something on order. I had an RC 2014 on order from Europe for 6 weeks now, probably, or longer. It still hasn't arrived. That's the green. Red can be added even if there's other stuff stuffed onto the board. That was the green. That's the leveling kit. It's the two logic devices. The capacitor substitution I'm going to do. So, in looking at the schematic here for the keyboard, let me zoom in here. Wrong direction. We've got those three caps, and C3 is the one that I'm talking about substituting. And it's a 10 microfarad cap, but you can see that all three of these caps are directly across the VCC and ground. C1 and C2 sit next to the two logic chips. And C3 is just a bulk decoupling. So we've got, decoupling close to the chips and then just kind of a bulk 10 microfarad here. So in this case, I really think the electrolytic I'm substituting in will be fine. The board will look a little neater if it's the multi-layer ceramic cap. But I think in this case, electrolytic should be absolutely fine. It's just a bulk decoupling cap. So I wanted to add that update here. See you back in the video. Even though that might not be right, this cap also doesn't have the proper lead spacing. I looked. I don't have in the other package, as I've received, a 10 microfarad ceramic, a multi-layer ceramic cap. So I'm not sure. Hopefully the height on that won't be an issue. It'll be easy enough to change out if it is. I think that all but the one LED, that has all the discrete and sockets I can want to put on the board for now. I'll go ahead and stuff the TTL. This is a 74 LS07. Out of my stock. It's obviously a new part, looking at the lead spacing, which is nice. So it is new old stock. Looking for the lead spacing tool. These work really well. I've had this for a while. I saw it on somebody else's channel. I also watch Adrian's Digital Basement, and in his last video too, a viewer sent him one of these, and he kind of demonstrates it. And they do work well. You know, they deal with lead splay really well. If the leads are, you know, bent side to side, you still got to use tweezers or needle nose. That's the LS145. Again, you know, the leads are splayed out, you know, very wide at the bottom, and this takes that out. It makes it really easy to get them into the socket. Into the socket. Trying to set all the stuff I haven't used, or the bags I've used aside here, so they're out of the way. Piece of foam. I think we could move on and actually do some key switches here. So there's one key switch that's unique. It's switch 65. That's the one I couldn't remember the number. I thought it was 43 or 63 or something. And that's this lone one here. And as it says here, it's a high linear force. And it's for the spacebar, which is interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe, if I can get the bag open, solder our first key switch. These can only go in one direction. They push down flush onto the board, and then the plastic pins hold them in place. So you definitely want to make sure you have it in flush before you solder. Didn't solder as well as I would have liked. It's better. And we've got the switch for the spacebar in. And let me get that marked off here. I am marking these off because I may have to come back to add additional parts or whatever in this build, and I want a good record of what's already in. There is the Spacebar Leveling Kit. I'm going to take a peek at it now. Just try to get an idea how it mounts. Without the spacebar here, it's kind of a guess. So there's the wire I talked about in the previous video. It'll go into the spacebar, probably on this side, and pivot. I'm expecting two of these probably go into the spacebar itself and two go on the circuit board, would be my guess. Got one stuck inside of the other. There was 4 parts, and then suddenly there was 3. I actually have no clue how these mount. That large hole must go to the large holes here. And it does go in. That's obviously where the metal bar rides. Do these clip down over somehow? Oh, I think I see what goes on. Be careful not to break it. I suspect those drop down through, maybe. like that. And then this must mount in this orientation. Well, when I get the space bar here, we'll find out. But it does look like those are designed to be hooked together. I think I actually may have got that in there. 180. There is what looks to be an alignment notch. That orientation. Well, that's interesting. I suspect the only difference with the ones I'm waiting on will be the length of this bar. This is somewhat delicate. I'm not going to actually mount it yet. Switch fixings. That's interesting. Cherry switch fixings. Huh. Get that into the big bag of parts. And we move on to switches. Keyboard switches. And these should all be identical. There should be enough of them here to populate the board. Just take a bit of pressure with my thumb to get it to seat down in from its little plastic pegs into the board. Now it's going to be interesting to see if I can hold on to these and actually mount them. Getting excited here. This is starting to look really nice. Those all are flush. A few more in. So far, pretty neat build. I'm not going to call it a kit because it doesn't come with all the parts. Obviously, I had to order even the PC boards myself. But it's still a fun build. I've just had to, like I've said before, source all the parts myself. You've seen, if you've watched the previous couple of videos, the boxes and bags of parts that have come from DigiKey and Mouser. Got those hole sizes in the PCB perfect for this. I'm sure the manufacturer had a a drill guide and all that kind of stuff with the proper size holes, and but that attention to detail is really nice. I know Sergey lives someplace up here in the Pacific Northwest. I suspect he may work the place I used to work at up here, though I don't know that. Just thought it would be kind of entertaining to meet him. Maybe someday. Well, for now, I'm going to solder those. We'll solder those together, and then I'll just move on to I'll do the rest, but I won't do this in real time. I'll speed up the video to save you the hour that's going to take. Boredom. I'm hoping I've got the camera positioned better here. The camera got moved and I forgot to move it back, and the last couple of videos have had a lot of the work I'm doing cut off, and I apologize for that. We'll Hopefully the centering here is better. This guy, and I think it's everybody that I mounted. So while we're here, before I slow this down, there are two here with LED indicators, and I don't know, I would have thought there would have to be special switches to deal with that. I don't remember seeing those in the BOM. It would be like that is switch 52, and it runs 1 to 64. So what gives? Oh, I screwed up. I can see the spot here where the LED would be mounted down through the switch. The switch should have gone in first and then the LED. That makes so much more sense. So I screwed up. There's our first thing we've learned together. I should not have mounted these two LEDs out here. This guy and wherever the other one was. First, the switch body should have gone in, and then there's a spot for the LED and two holes for the legs to go down through. So I'm going to need to remove those. So there's our first mistake. That makes much more sense. And now I know, and you do too. Hopefully you'll see this before you assemble yours and not make the same mistake. So with this, I will jump in and we'll do this very quickly, at least in the video, get it done, and I'll see you after that's done. So we'll go ahead and solder these last 5 together. We've got one here that I managed to bend a pin up underneath right here, and the solder didn't actually catch the pin, luckily, so I just really need to clean out the hole here. And hopefully I can straighten that pin back up without bending it off or breaking it off. Get the switch in properly. Yeah, the tip of the switch is very... And it actually looks like there may have been a manufacturing defect. It's not shaped exactly like the other pin. I can see that the pin went in just fine that time. Luckily I caught it before I had soldered the other pin, so it made rework easy. No, these are all that way, so it was manufactured fine. There's just a slightly different shape to the pins, which is interesting. It's probably got to do with the mechanism inside. Actually starting to feel like a keyboard. It's getting some weight to it. I want to check all these to make sure they are in flush. That one wasn't totally seated. That one moved a little bit. Feels good, so I think just get these last 6 soldered, and we are done with key switches. See, there's one right here. Excited for the keycaps to get here to see what it's going to look like with the keycaps mounted. I think I mentioned before there was all kinds of colors available. I just ordered bright white and black, thinking I'd probably use bright white in the the alpha numeric fields, and then all the other keys will be black with white lettering. We'll see. I think that solders all the switches in. Let me take a look at all of them and make sure I see solder everywhere. And of course, we learned our lesson with the LEDs, switch body in first, then the LEDs. I may have to order. Well, I can't reuse the LEDs I put in. The leads are way too short, so I'm not happy with that solder joint. Looks a little better. My crow buddy's back out there. It's raining here. You missed a deluge. Got very loud while I was doing, the majority of the keycaps. Well, there we have it. We have a keyboard. They feel okay. The fuel will change a little bit with the keycaps on, but I think that's it. I think that gets the keyboard together minus the 3 LEDs. It all looks good to me. Looking down the rows of key switches, I think they're all reasonably square. There's the question about this capacitor. Easy enough to replace him if I need to, and if that resistor network wasn't supposed to be mounted, I can remove him easy enough. Now in this case, I've got a good desoldering station, so I think that'll wrap up this video. I'll see you in the next one.